Have you read this new book, Crossroads by Caleb Dahlgren?
No, I haven't. What's it about?
It's an autobiography about one of the players who survived the Humboldt Broncos bus crash.
Humboldt Broncos bus crash. I remember that.
In it, he details his life and overcoming adversity to be the person he is today. And that's not just included to the Humboldt Broncos car crash. I've read the first 2 chapters, and in the first chapter, it talks about him being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes as a kid.
Wow, that sounds really interesting.
So that's kind of what the first chapter is about. All about him being diagnosed with diabetes as a kid, which was a pretty serious back then. He talks about how serious the diet was, how serious his sugars, especially as a little kid, they can die at any time. And then in the second chapter, he talks about his journey through youth hockey, how he loved the game, and how almost everything he did was for the game. He was never off the ice, and he was always playing hockey in some sort. And you just love to see that type of passion from a kid. For those of you that don't know, the Humboldt Broncos bus crash was a bus crash that happened when the Humboldt Broncos were going up to Nipawin to play in their playoff game. For some extra context, this is the team there that was involved in the bus crash. This was the semi-driver that they unfortunately crashed into. And this is Caleb Dahlgren. He is the author of this book. If you don't mind, I'd like to share a few quotes with you and explain their significance.
Go ahead. I'd love to hear some.
1.
I will pick out 5 quotes to share with you. One of my favorite quotes is at the beginning of every chapter, he kind of bait and switches, where he talks about something that could be from the Humboldt Broncos crash, but is actually a memory from earlier in his life. For example, the quote, "One of the very first memories I have is of being in the hospital, desperate to get out. There were so many needles." He's actually talking about him becoming diabetic for the first time, but reading it for the first time, you'd be forgiven to think this is the part he's about to talk about, being in the hospital with the crash. He also talks about how this was hard for him to process as a kid. Quote, "Why are you doing this?" I screamed. "Why are you hurting me? Why don't you love me?" That quote makes it pretty clear to see that the change was difficult for him to adjust. He also talks about in the first chapter his first really big experience, not hockey, but his birthday party. Quote, "For my 5th birthday, Dad tried his best to make it feel like we were skating out for an NHL game." What they actually did is they rented out the Warriors arena, the Moose Jaw Warriors, and had smoke machines, and their dad was a PA announcer. Sounds really, really cool for them to play a game of hockey, and they made them really feel like they were out there on the ice with the NHL players. In the second chapter, he really delves into how much hockey meant to him as a kid and how much he played the game. Quote, "The ice was like our home away from home, and when we weren't at the rink, I was finding ways to keep playing." Really just shows you the passion this kid had for the game. He also details his trips from with more competitive teams. For example, when he played in the Edmonton Mall, and he played against countless players who had eventually gone on to the NHL and have played in the tournaments over the years. One of our opponents that year was Matt Barzell, who played for the Vancouver Vipers, the team that won the championship, and another was Mitchell Marner. He's in the NHL playoffs currently. So this guy was pretty legit.
Well, what's the author's purpose?
In Crossroads, Caleb seeks to inspire and entertain the audience, but also carry on the stories of his Humboldt Broncos that didn't make it. And by sharing his story, he hopes he can encourage people to learn more about the Humboldt Broncos and remember them for not just who they were, but who they were as a team, and remember their individual stories as well as his.